Holy guacamole, it's the end of August, and that means Medicare mail will begin en masse very soon. Welcome to the Maximize Your Medicare podcast. My name is J.O. I'm your host. I'm also the author of Maximize Your Medicare, published by Allworth Press in 2020. Be sure to check out the website for the book, www.maximizeyourmedicare.com. There's hashtag AskJ, where you can pose your personal private questions. Your first questions, of course, answered for free within 24 hours. Not going to be a problem. What ends up happening is that, I work in a number of different ways. If it's pure brokerage function, there is no charge for my assistance in becoming your agent of record for either Medicare Advantage, Medigap, or Part D. If you need heavy analysis, which is becoming more common as a result of the complicated financial ramifications of the way that you get out of your retiree plan, or your employer-sponsored plan is ending, or if you have a spouse that you need to make sure has insurance, or an adult-age child who also needs insurance, these have a one-time fee irrespective of the number of hours. It could take an hour, it could take 20 hours, one-time fee. Anyway, all of that kind of stuff can be asked to me on hashtag AskJ at www.maximizeyourmedicare.com. First and foremost, the time will start to fly by here. In 6 weeks' time, I'm going to have Medicare ABCs. It's an online, virtual, information-only event. You do need to pre-register. Spaces are running out. The technology only allows X number of people to be participating, and once we hit X, I'm going to have to close down the registration. So please go to the link in the text of this podcast. Click there and register. It's free. I'm going to be able to describe not only the parts to Medicare, but in addition to that, I will have some insight on certain things that are very notable for 2021, because all of that information will be publicly available on October 1st. You'll hear my opinions first on October 5th during the Medicare ABCs virtual event. So please, again, go and register by clicking the link in the text of this podcast. We've got a lot of headlines about the things, the coming up days and weeks, things that I've seen in the news, et cetera, et cetera. So let's just get started. I'm going to talk as quickly as I possibly and reasonably can. Okay, so first of all, annual notice of change letters are going to be sent out during the month of September. You can expect them at any point in time, pretty much immediately upon hearing this podcast. These letters are sent to existing Part D as well as Medicare Advantage policyholders. They are a regulatory requirement. The CMS requires the carriers to send them to you. Now, these ANOC letters, ANOC letters, will detail for you the changes from 2020 and what will be changed in 2021 for your plan. And, I probably should have started this off by calling this, big deal, little deal, no deal. I would probably call this, little deal. Because the good thing is that, the carriers are not hiding anything from you, right? It is there as an assurance to you, meaning that these regulations are set up so that you are not blindsided. Now, the fact of the matter is the practical reality. Are you all reading these letters and, looking at them line by line? Yeah, I'm skeptical, right? Because the fact of the matter is, if you did pay attention, if people did pay attention in mass, then they would be asking, the following questions. Number one is, where's the comparison across all of the other plans? And here's your answer. It's absent, right? There is no comparison For example, when you receive these ANOC letters, the reason that they're of limited use to you is while they're telling you what will change if you stayed with the same plan, they are not telling you if you could have done better or worse by changing to another plan. Okay, and there are reasons for this. The background here, quite candidly, is that the carriers are not allowed to set multiple plans next to each other and give an advertisements and say, hey, we're better than the next guy. This is not like selling cars, Dodge, Ram Tough versus Ford F-150. This is not the same market, okay? Because you're talking about tax dollars that are being used to create the subsidies for these types of plans. As a result, there are advertising restrictions, which is why the facts that you get in the mail are not going to be wrong. These ANOC letters are not going to be factually wrong. I'm very convinced of that. However, whether or not they're the information required to make the best decision, I'm also skeptical of that because of the fact that it's not telling you what your total anticipated prescription cost would be, and it's also not presenting the other 30, approximately 30 Part D plans that are available in your area, and maybe 30, and if you're in Miami-Dade, 60 Medicare Advantage plans in your area. You see what I'm saying? So in other words, these ANOC letters are not wrong. They are useful in the sense that they will tell you what will change into 2021. However, their usefulness is limited because, again, they're not telling you what is the most efficient solution for your particular healthcare needs. And for that, it's not a big deal. It's not no deal. I call it little deal. We have a second instance of big deal, little deal, no deal. And that is the underlying law requires health insurance companies to spend 80 or 85% of all the dollars they collect in premiums on claims. And this is something called the medical loss ratio, or MLR. The background here is that this was a requirement of the Affordable Care Act. And the result is that if carriers do not spend this 80 or 85%, then they must refund the difference to you. Now, the fact of the matter is that this calculation has now been done, and people are receiving their notices on these rebates, which have been impressive and candidly, pretty much across the board, depending on your plan, your carrier, your location. Now, there's a number of different ways to think about this. First of all, it's always great to get money back, right? You might think to yourself, hey, it's great to get 15% of my premiums back after the fact. The flip side of the way that money actually works is you've lent the company 15% of your premium for free, because it's not like you're getting your money back plus interest, or your money back plus food, or coupons of some other type of sort. You're getting no return. You're just getting 15%, which you may have paid as long as a year and a half ago, more than a year and a half ago. So let's not call it all good news, right? Because part of this could have been the fact that carriers had overestimated how much your premium should have been. And if they had correctly estimated it, then your MLR would be right at the 80 to 85%, in which case your refund would be zero. But your premium would have been lower during, 2019. So, there's all of that to be kind of into the soup. Now, 2020 is a special case because what I think you're going to have is you're going to have ongoing MLR. In other words, a year from today, you can expect to receive more rebates. And some, in certain carriers, they've actually rebated you already this year. For example, I know of a couple of carriers. My own specific carrier to my plan actually reduced its premium mid-year for the month, like I want to call it June or July. And the reason is that claims are way lower than would have otherwise been anticipated. The insurance companies have clearly seen this. And the reason that they've seen this, and you have seen, if you have been paying attention or looked on the news or thought about it for a few moments, people just don't go to the doctor. During COVID-19, unless you actually have symptoms of COVID-19, the number of times that you're being able to go to your doctor for checkup or to have, some other type of elective surgery, these have gone down to basically zero, which is creating a huge financial problem for primary care physicians, urgent care centers, specialist groups. All sorts of different practices are getting stressed, financially stressed, due to the fact that the usage of healthcare services has declined dramatically. And as as many people know, in favor of things like telemedicine, your appointment on the phone or, using Zoom. So in the scheme of things, whether or not you call this big deal, little deal, no deal, I would call this big deal, actually. And the reason it's a big deal is not only is it money for 2019, but in addition to that, it can mean more money for the premiums you're paying during 2020. Let's go to Medicare. So, in the past number of podcasts and videos, I've been highlighting two pretty big changes that are coming down the pipeline into 2021. The first one is something which is going to limit the insulin copay to $35 a month. That's the first one. The second one is the fact that ESRD, end-stage renal disease patients that require dialysis, they will have the unrestricted right to enroll in Medicare Advantage plans, which is a notable change from the past when ESRD patients could only enroll in Medicare Advantage plans if they fit a number of different exceptions, largely due to the fact that they were sitting in an incumbent employer-provided plan at a large employer. You may reasonably ask me, okay, Jay, I'm not an insulin-dependent person. I'm also not on dialysis. Why should I care? Why do I care? That doesn't affect me. That is not the way this works, okay? Meaning, people don't understand the mechanism by which that Medicare Advantage carriers as well as Part D carriers operate. They're getting a fixed amount of money per person that enrolls in their plans from the federal government, okay? From the federal government. And that number is fixed, and then there's some risk adjustment, of course, not necessarily, of course, to you, but there's a risk and adjustment for those persons with chronic illnesses or severe health situations for Medicare Advantage. Now, the fact of the matter is that these monies come from the federal budget. If that amount required has to be paid, meaning the benefits are large from the Medicare Advantage carrier or the Part D carrier, a couple of things. Number one, let's go back to the insulin situation. These discounts are allegedly coming from the prescription drug manufacturers, the insulin manufacturers. Okay, that said, you need to be careful here, because for the persons that are on insulin, they're going to want to cherry pick and get to those plans, whether they be Part D or Medicare Advantage plan, which treats their insulin payments to minimize the cost for for insulin, right? Insulin, you may know, quite expensive. And because of the fact, the way this is going to work into 2021, the insulin-dependent persons are going to want to choose Part D plans or prescription or Medicare Advantage plans to minimize the cost. That's the rational decision. Okay, that is the rational decision. Let's leave out the people who, detest change to such a degree they would rather set money on fire. Okay, we're not going to be able to change that, right? But most rational persons who are insulin dependent will be checking and changing plans. Now, that's a huge number of people in the United States, right? Something like, it was some astronomical number, something like more than well over 20% of Medicare beneficiaries are insulin dependent, or some astronomical number like that. And I can't remember it off the top of my head. The question is going to be about what about the rest? Well, the issue is for those particular plans, you're going to want to be careful, because if those plans are handling aggressively giving very good benefits for insulin, and you're not insulin dependent, then you may be giving up something to your fellow policyholders who are insulin dependent. That alone may mean that a change is in order. Okay? And this is is it super subtle? No, it's like this, right? I mean, you've got an allowance, and the allowance is a household allowance. Well, if one child needs a bigger share of the allowance, well, guess what's going to happen to the rest of the children, right? They've got to take less, basically. And that's basically what we have here. One way or the other, it's going to be very important for those persons not only who are on insulin, but in addition, I highly suspect that those persons who are not on insulin will have additional motivations to check. I find 2021 fascinating from that point of view, meaning that I'm going to be suspecting that the best solution for most people is going to be change plans. I can't come up with other conclusions. And if it's not a change in plan, that's going to be just a circumstance or luck. Because the reality is that it's going to be very likely that a more efficient plan is found elsewhere. In much the same way, I'm also going to talk about ESRD, which is those persons who require dialysis. So under this situation, what has happened is something like only less than 1 million people, or less than 1% of the Medicare population, I want to call it 500,000 people, are ESRD patients requiring insulin in the United States. However, they're using 7% of the Medicare budget. Okay, so 1% is using 7% of the budget. Okay, so they're using a lot of the expenses because of the fact that since the 20% has to be paid by the ESRD patient, that means 80% is being covered by Medicare. Okay. If those persons all go into Medicare Advantage, right, the question is going to be whether or not they hit the out-of-pocket maximum. So let's just say the out-of-pocket maximum is $4,500 on a Medicare Advantage plan, and you are an ESRD dialysis patient. Well, you're going to hit the $4,500, let's just say, in 2021, and from there, every dollar is paid for by the Medicare Advantage plan. That's the way that annual out-of-pocket maximum works. So, a couple of things here. For ESRD patients, I've always said this about Medicare Advantage, always. And it's right there in the book on Medicare Advantage. The first challenge, the first criteria is try to match the network. To the best of your ability, you're trying to have facilities, healthcare providers in network. That is the cost minimizing solution, period. Okay? The second layer however, becomes then, what's the lowest out-of-pocket maximum? Because let's just say, for example, some unfortunate circumstance and you require all sorts of healthcare services. What the out-of-pocket maximum does is it limits the total downside to your financial situation in a given calendar year, which is, of course, very, very important. Well, for an ESRD patient, that becomes quite pertinent because the dialysis costs that much. So you're going to want to have both. You're going to want to have the dialysis center try to be in network if at all possible. And then in addition to that, you're going to want to have the lowest out-of-pocket maximum. So let's just say there are only 2 people in the world and they both are my clients. I'm going to be advising both in their own best interest, right? So as a result, for the dialysis person, I'm going to be telling them, yes, absolutely. Let's go see whether or not the dialysis center is in network or out of network. And if we can find the one in network that works for you, let's use that, and that may determine which plan is most efficient. But I'm also going to have this extra criteria to say, in addition to that, let's try to make sure that the out-of-pocket maximum is the lowest possible. Now, to client number 2, I'm going to have a different set of recommendations, right? Which is that since we don't need insulin, or since we don't need dialysis, I'll stop mixing them up one of these times. Since I don't need dialysis, we don't really care about the total cost of dialysis and whether or not, it has a bunch of dialysis centers in network. We don't care about that. What we do care about, though, is if all else is equal, of course, we do our dotting I's and crossing our T's, right, which is to make sure that our doctors and hospitals are in network. We continue on with our comparison amongst all the 30 plans, maybe 80, 60 plans in Miami-Dade County. And we're trying to focus on, yes, let's have the lowest premium, make sure our people are in network, and then also layer in the fact that we want to have the lowest out-of-pocket maximum so that we can try to reduce our total cost. This is going to be important because I expect this parameter, the level of out-of-pocket maximum, to be in flux in 2021. We have seen tremendous amounts of competition on this statistic, meaning I have seen the total out-of-pocket maximum for in-network versus out-of-network. We've seen tremendous amounts of competition, and in particular locations, we've had dramatically reduced out-of-pocket maximums, which can help consumers tremendously. This relates back to, the first part of this podcast, right, when I was talking about annual notice of change, right, because the annual notice of change is going to tell you what changed if you don't change plans. That's fine. But the reality is you're going to want to see what the other plans are doing. That isn't on the annual notice of change. There's no getting around that. That's the reason I wrote Maximize Your Medicare. I knew that these parts were going to be moving and be highly subject to intense competition. That has played out. And as a result, people's best solution is to check annually. I can't reiterate that strongly enough. Okay, that's it for this pod. You can check me out. I appear in the media in many locations. On thestreet.com, which is Jim Cramer's website, there is a section called Retirement. It's Retirement Daily. Robert Powell is, the head of that. I appear on videos 3 times a month. We're going to have those, in rapid, fire, commencing pretty much immediately. 3 times a month, you can go onto thestreet.com and click on the retirement section and check me out there. He also has a subscription website. And again, don't forget to register for Medicare ABCs, the virtual online event. Speak with you next time.